speaking in the city square, trying to tell somebody that he cares. Can you blame the voice of youth for asking what is true? Yeah, the ones that you're calling wild are gonna be the leaders in a little while, when will the lonely voice of youth cry what is true? This our world's waking to a newborn babe, and I solemnly swear it'll be their way. You better help that voice of youth find what is true. And the lonely voice of youth cries, what is true?
All right. Welcome, everybody, to the AI God. Oh boy, we're going to have so much fun. Got my Sampel here, of course. Get us some Sampel. In fact, I've got a bunch of it in my Muppet cup. If you don't have a Muppet cup, you can get one at shop at markofwisdom.org. And I've got some tea from Table Rock Tea. This is the Westminster. It is delightful. Very rich flavor to the Westminster. And because I can't resist, I got jelly babies. I love jelly babies. All good Time Lords should have one. And since I'm doing a live stream, I'm technically a Time Lord. So there you go. Nobody even thought about that, did they? YouTube makes you a Time Lord. Can confirm. So yeah, I thought with all the craziness, and boy, the craziness has been ramped up in the world at large. With all the craziness going on, I did watch a talk on Climbing Mount Sophia. That's Ken Lowry's channel, where they're doing this multi-part AI thing. And it's John Vervaeke and DC Schindler and Jonathan Peugeot and Ken Lowry. And Jonathan Peugeot knows more about AI than any of the tech people talking about it. It just blows my mind. He so understands it perfectly well. And he actually used the line that, we built this thing, we keep putting electricity into it. It's like, yes, which is why AI is a Frankenstein funhouse mirror. That's all it is. It's cracked for sure. But I figured that it was time for me to address this. Now, this is going to be a little different live stream from my perspective because I don't have that many notes because I don't need notes to talk about AI. So I could talk about AI off the top of my head without any problem, but I did take some notes, just not the usual long form notes. So yeah, it's just reached such a fever pitch. I feel like most of the people talking about AI I don't know what they need because I don't really understand, but they need something real bad because they are stuck in imagination land. They're just making stuff up. It's like I don't know, guys. I've built neural nets from scratch in C. I've done a lot of data science work, which is required. Garbage in, garbage out. Best AI in the world. Bad data, bad AI. Don't know what to tell you about that. Scaling and quote emergent properties on computers. I'm definitely an expert on that. No question. Decades of experience. Decades. And these guys and their stupid AI talk, it's so weird. The mistakes they make and the things they say that are just like, I mean, I suppose you could say things more wrong, but you'd have to really try some of the stuff. So, I mean, I'll just start out with how I knew this was a problem, which was I was on Clubhouse a few years ago when Clubhouse wasn't terrible. And some obviously very young female came in. We were a group of mostly techie AI people anyway, right? A lot of them were kind of into AI. And she comes in and she's listening to us for a while and we're just sort of talking about, programming projects and some AI stuff and whatnot. And she goes, "But guys, this AI, it's real." And we're kind of like, "Well, yeah, we know about AI." She was like, "No, no, no. You don't understand the depth of this thing. I gave it a very small prompt and it like did all this stuff." And we're like, "Well, yeah." And now keep in mind, everybody in the room is a programmer. Everybody. And we're like, "Well, yeah, that's not that hard. It grabs things from the internet and then kind of stitches them together, right?" And so you can ask it for like, you can give it 3 words and it can give you a story, that's 10 pages. That's not a problem for AI because it's got a store of knowledge that's not just what you tell it. She could not understand this concept and basically was talking like a cult member. And now it's just like, and we're all techies, so we all know how it works. And we're like, this is not surprising. And you don't even need AI to do it, but different problem. A lot of the stuff that people talk about with AI is better done without AI. I've said that before. The only exception to that is the LLMs themselves. That a computer's understanding language that well is a unique sort of a thing. Although prompt engineering is a job, why would you need to engineer a prompt if AI understands the language? There's a good question worth asking. If AI understands people, why would you need a prompt engineer to get the answers out that you want? Dun dun dun. That's a hint, by the way. That's a hint. So the problem with AI, and that was sort of that little story, was my first experience with this cult-like attitude towards AI, is that cults are forming around it, and it's worth kind of asking, like, well, why? Why are cults forming around AI? What is it that causes a cult to form around technology, and not just like Steve Jobs' persona of technology, right? And or Elon Musk technology persona, right? This is like a non-person thing by definition. Well, I mean, roughly speaking, it's a new god, right? And it's the way it comes to us though is as a mirror. So we're seeing very much what we want to see. And that's why you get the likes of John Vervaeke, who otherwise is very smart, uh, talking about wisdom and spirituality in LLMs and how that's going to happen when mathematically certain cannot. Like actual math, actual certainty actually cannot. Like I don't even. It's still a computer. Computers, unlike the rest of the universe, actually follow math. The rest of the universe doesn't follow math, at least not as precisely as a computer. Computers precisely follow math. I don't, I don't know why I'd have to say that, but I, I guess this is where we're living. I mean, the Peugeot comment was great, right? Because we're literally feeding this thing electricity and speaking as though we're going to get life. That's the Frankenstein story. That's what it is. That is exactly the story. It is 0% different, except the parts involved. And there's a lot of talk too about the mimicry circuits in your brain, right? The neuroscientists are talking about this. We mimic things. Yes, of course we do. And there's Rene Girard with his theory of mimetic desire, which doesn't seem to be wrong, although how he got there is dumb. Um, AI mimics us, right? And we also try to mimic it. So that's disturbing. And the question is, why is it, why is it becoming an object of worship? Why is it becoming something around which you can form a cult or cults are forming? Well, when you have a phenomena in the world that will say fills a need that you didn't know you had, you get these little cults. I mean, that's one way you get cults. It's not the only way you get cults. It's one way you get cults, right? A need within you is being filled. What is the need that AI fills? AI is the God. It's the new God. It's the thing that can help us transcend where we are. And it also unites us, right? I mean, any God will unite a people. So, you talk about globalism all day long, but what unites people is the thing that unites the people is the thing above the people. The ultimate thing above, we'll say, all the people is God by definition. So you can stop trying to use the word God, but you're still going to point at the concept, and at that point you can call it metaphysics for all I care. You're talking about God. Um, you can object to, "Well, it's not the nature of the God that the person before used to mean God." Well, I don't care. You're talking about the same thing. You can argue about the detailed differences or the implementation differences, but talking about the same thing. So obviously, there's a need for that unity under this higher power that can also help us be better than we are today. And that's how you get a cult in many cases. That's why AI is the new god for these people. They're denying any other god. And the sciency folks are going to fall into a problem for sure because they need a god because they've done away with him. And in the age of gnosis, AI is made of pure knowledge in some sense, technically speaking. And this has the most knowledge. So if the age of gnosis is, propositional knowledge as the highest value, well, AI is your god. I agree. Like, that would be correct. Also, propositional knowledge is not my highest value by far. I'm not even sure it makes the top 10 list. So, when they talk about it, they sneak in terms like caring and being, right? They sneak those portions into their conversation and assign it to AI. And then they can just say things like, well, look, the AI can start to care. It's like, really? Can I see the white paper on that, please? I'd love to. I'd love to check that one out. Um, I'd like to just hear your theory about why you think this mystical caring, which you can't define, can just be assigned to a machine, which you can't explain how that's going to happen, or how it would manifest, or how you would test that. You aren't testing it scientifically, that's for sure. So, what are you talking about? At some point, then the sciencey folks are going to fall for that because there's a hole where the unity should be. And if you sort of zoom out for a second and you don't talk about AI, you just sort of look. This idea of unity and belonging to a group is the thing we're struggling with. So at the same time, everybody's telling you they're struggling with their individual identity. That's a lie. What they're struggling with is their group identity. Because you get your individual identity, such as it is, from the groups you're part of. And it can't be a single group. They want it to be a single group because that's easier. But life ain't easy. So sucks to be them. And when you don't have the thing that can unify you, one will be provided to you in the form of AI in this case, or in the form of an ideology in the case of climate, right? Or in the form of an economic theory, or in the form of a woke cult, right? That's going to happen, right? I mean, you're going to replace God with evolution at some point if you just deny God without really thinking about how that's going to work out for you. Because again, whatever you want to say about the word, the concept of having something outside of yourself that's outside of all other people and higher than them that can help you transcend is not going away. So that's your God. And the other reason why people are going to fall for this, especially the sciencey people, is because when you have no proper contrasted idea of something higher, you'll see everything higher as God, right? Or you have the potential to see it that way, right? And it's something greater than you. And you might think that's silly or trivial or whatever, and I'm gonna have to go down the road of throwing Ayn Rand under the bus, even though I love Ayn Rand. When you read something like Atlas Shrugged, or you read some of her writings about how she, came at objectivism, which for the most part I agree with. Um, what you discover is that she's in New York City, literally straight off the boat. She looks up at these beautiful buildings. Now, we'll go read Atlas Shrugged. We'll chat afterwards. I mean, the worship of the thing just physically larger than a human is apparent in her writings. And it doesn't have to be a building. You can kind of see uh, hints of it in trains for her, right? Like these concepts in the Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged are kind of everywhere. So it's not hard to see people worshiping just things bigger than them, right? And calling your attention to it as though that should be important to you or significant to you or something that you should also worship in some way. Maybe sacrifice for, like, we all have to get together and make sure this gets done. What do you think that is? And again, I mean, in the age of gnosis, when knowledge as proposition is the highest value, where do you think they're going to go? AI is it's the highest thing. It's definitely God in that context. Even if it doesn't technically quote, emerge being or sentience or consciousness or whatever buzzword they can't define are using this week. Um, Note can't define, right? And the thing is that, an AI very much has this property. Gathering things together arbitrarily does not make a whole. You can't say, oh, all the AIs together will form a consciousness. Like that is not anything like the way the world works. Now, when you see a whole, you can split it apart. That's, in some sense, a trivial thing to do for people. But that doesn't mean that you can just take parts, put them together, and get a whole, right? It's not a symmetrical relationship. Something, a sense, the sense for asymmetry of the world is something we've very much lost, and science has sort of helped along with that. Um, it's the transitive property need not apply, and that's the problem. This arbitrariness of AI. AI is spreading out, not coalescing. That's why every time somebody talks about AGI and the AI is getting together, I'm like, have you looked around? Hugging Face has thousands of AI models, and each AI model gets activated with different sets of information. And each AI model plus a set of information plus a user constitutes an AI. I don't know what to tell you. Like, and there's more every day. Every day. Like it's growing at an insane rate. Um, so it's spreading out, right? And there people are not understanding. You can't just say they're going to gather together or that they have enough in common, or it's just not true. A lot of the battles in AI are about what training set did you use? It's a good question. How did you vet your training set? What did you make sure was in your training set and what did you exclude from your training set? Notice the AI is not making those decisions, obviously. It is lesser than us. It is totally dependent upon us to have knowledge, which type of knowledge, and how it processes the knowledge, and how fast that is, and how accurate that is, and how creative it seems to be. Not really creative. They literally just put a random number generator in there. Uh, Random number generators are not creativity. Sorry. I don't even think from a technical perspective, it's so silly to talk about it like emerging consciousness and wisdom. It's just the math doesn't support it. Let me put it that way. I don't know. It's funny too because they talk about billions of parameters and all this nonsense, and then they say oh wisdom's just around the corner. And you can't have both. You got to drop the numbers if you're going to have the wisdom. And so it's spreading out. It's not coalescing. They're trying to have a decentralized version of centralization. That's a trick. There's no such thing. Decentralization is a series of trade-offs, and you won't like those trade-offs, but you're welcome to decentralize as much as you want. That's also individualism, is a decentralization of the culture, right, or the society, uh, to individuals, and that won't work because then we can't cooperate by definition. That's that you can be an individual and be alone, right? You can have individual AIs that are alone that you control. The more control you have over the AI, the more individualistic the AI is by definition. It's not going to get AGI from you, that's for sure. Can't be bigger than you if it's under your tutelage. Oops. If it's under somebody else's tutelage, how do you know what they want? Maybe they want Satan to appear in the world. I don't know. This was sort of Peugeot's point too in that talk I referenced on climbing Mount Sophia. You don't know what the forces are. And one of the very just flat out like you need to leave your house moments was I think it was John Vervaeke was saying, oh, we need ritual to support good AI. John Buddy, they're doing rituals at OpenAI. I don't know what to tell you, dude. It's all over the news. They're doing very strange rituals. Very strange rituals. They have been for years. Um, doesn't solve the problem of which rituals, does it? It doesn't solve the problem of knowing what those rituals will bring. Because you could make the argument that, sorry, Father Eric, you could make the argument that even the Catholics may not have the right rituals. I don't think that's true, but it's possible. In which case, what are we invoking? We're imperfect creatures. Any rituals we come up with, even as a collective distributed cognition, are not likely to go the way we expect. We have very little control over these things. And in some ways, I think ritual as such is a way to allow uncontrolled things to happen. I won't get into that now. If you want to hear more about that, leave me a comment. Maybe I'll do a live stream on ritual. It was very interesting because I did a I didn't plan this, I promise, but there was an AI thing locally in Columbia, South Carolina. So I went to that yesterday, and he had a creative guy there who has a company doing a bunch of marketing work for a bunch of different businesses. And the guy said right off, AI cannot create anything new. It can only rearrange what it has. Right? And you can add to that, right? Which is good because you can customize the AI to do what you want it to do. And I thought that was a good comment from somebody who's an AI practitioner actually using it in the field. He doesn't program AIs. Fred and I do. We were both there. But no, he had a lot of good stuff to say. And the way he uses AI is amazing and it's super useful for him. And that's the problem. Like AI, and this is one of the things Peugeot said in that talk, AI is made of dead stuff. It's made of other people's dead stuff. That's what it's made of. And we add electricity to other people's dead stuff. It's Frankenstein, guys. It that's what the story. That's what the story is. I don't. I don't understand. I'm so confused. How can all these people who I thought had an IQ over 100 not have an IQ over 100? I don't get it. And the thing is, universality, this idea of AGI and everything coming together, is a simplification of the world, right? So you don't have to bump into people you don't like or things you like. You can just universalize, right? Global community. We're all part of a global community. Now I automatically have intimacy with you. I automatically have a right to treat you in a certain way because we're all part of the global community, right? It's a nice simplification to get around the hard work of meeting people, doing things with people, being nice to people. That's really hard work. Um, all day I was just assaulted by stupidity that would just make me laugh. Oh, it's so funny. And it's sad though. It's sad. Don't listen to Sam Harris talk. It's a laugh or cry situation. And this idea of universality and AI is very much I don't need to do the work, right? Because somebody else already did it. And their answer is the same as the one that I need. And yeah, AI can give you the same answer that someone else has, and maybe with a little variation, or it can pick one of those answers from a bunch of available answers more likely. And that might work for you, but no, probably not. That's part of the problem. But the universality of AI makes your life easy, at least in theory, right? But the thing you're not sort of realizing is AI is elites, right? It allows the most industrious, not the smartest, not the smartest, the most industrious folks to do more while involving fewer people. So it creates an elite class of industrious, competent people. If you are not competent and not industrious, you are screwed. AI is your enemy. No, really. Smartness isn't involved, by the way. The smart people are enslaved to make the AI better. That already happened. I'm not talking hypothetically about the future like these other nutbags. Telling you what has already occurred that you can witness and observe in the world for yourself if you but care to do a little bit of looking. It enslaves smart people and is enslaved by industrious people, and the competent ones of those will be at the top tier. The less competent will be just down from them, and the smart people will be slaves in the back room. If that's what you want, that's great. The odds that you're industrious are low. The odds that you're competent are probably not as good as you think. Sorry. Sorry. Just is what it is. Um, and they're going to involve fewer people in doing the things they do, right? And again, it's an elitist thing. It'll help the competent to rise up. And we're only now just getting to, what does that cost? Well, obviously, it costs the jobs of people who aren't industrious and competent. Should we take jobs away from people who aren't industrious and competent? I don't think so. I'm a no on that. I think we should create jobs for them to do so that they can cooperate with us. Jobs are a form of cooperation. Contrary to what Rene Girard may tell you, society or culture, whatever you want to, civilization, did not rise from reciprocating violence. It rose from our deep need and desire to cooperate with one another because we need one another to survive, just technically, as a species, too. I don't know if, I don't know, like, if you guys know this, but it takes two to have a baby. Just as a species, cooperation required to varying degrees. Maybe maybe the caveman did like bonk the woman over the head and drag him by the hair back to the cave, but that's still a form of cooperation. It may not be the best, but it is. She's still got to have and raise the baby, even if she gets bonked on the head and dragged off to a cave. Um, I, you know, I, I don't know. AI can't do that for us. So the cost is, what do the less competent, less industrious people do with their lives? How do they cooperate with the now elite, industrious, competent people? I don't know. What about the cost of like electricity? And we had a morning meeting today, and they were talking about, oh yeah, it takes this much to train the AI model. So many houses for a year, sort of electricity game that they play, and yeah, it's a little disingenuous because once it's trained, it doesn't use that anywhere near that much electricity. It uses like 1/1000th of that much electricity. So a lot of people don't realize that. But there is an electricity cost, and it's pretty steep, right? And you certainly don't want all the jobs to be done by tech workers and electrical workers. Like that's not great. And AI takes a lot of data centers, and data centers are a big use of space, and they take a lot of electricity to run, and they take high-speed internet to make them useful, right? And they provide some interesting jobs, but they're mostly tech jobs. You have to be physically competent to work in a data center for most jobs. And yeah, you know, uh, those are mostly tech jobs. It just increases the elitism. If you want elitism, then you're probably pro AI. If you're pro AI, you're probably pro elitism without even realizing it. That's not better. Just in case you didn't cotton on to that. But we can use AI properly. And so, I mean, I want to talk about that. I want to end on a positive note. AI is basically automating electronic tasks. And it's basically automation. And with the LLMs, they're great at understanding human requests. And they're pretty good at writing in some cases too. Although they're not as great as you think, right? Because again, prompt engineering. So now you have a whole class of engineers who are engineering language, or maybe serving as interpreters between your language as a human and the AI language as an AI. That's the only reason you need a prompt engineer, is if you have a difference in language and that communication needs to be managed. That's what engineering is to some extent. I mean, maybe not all engineering is, but that's part of it. But once you do that, it can automate tasks pretty well. And the fact that you can tell it things, and that is a substitute for actually having to know how to click in certain places or use a timeline or any number of things, that's huge. In fact, I was watching one demonstration where this guy's saying, here's an interview I did. I'm going to turn this into blog posts. This guy doesn't like to write, but he speaks really well. We can have the AI clip this and write articles out of it and only use his language. A good use of AI, man. Like, you're not deceiving anybody. The guy doesn't like to sit down and write. A lot of people can't sit down and write. Writing's hard, by the way. Programs or, articles. But you can do that. You can sit down, you can write, and if you can't do that, you can get it from the AI by talking. And that's great. Some people are articulate enough, not everybody though. And it can help you refine your thoughts. What this guy was doing was he was saying you can also edit videos with AI. And I was like, well, that's interesting. How would you do that? And he showed us the AI that you fed the video to had captioned it with the TikTok style captions, that do that little pop up thing. And you go into the script at the side and you can remove sections by sentence. and it'll cut the video. And you still got to play with it and fix it because it's not correct because AI is not anywhere near as perfect as you would think it would be. And I was like, wow. I mean, he just saved himself a bunch of time editing. I mean, he said like this was a 6 or 8 hour job for somebody, and I can do it in 20 minutes. And now I don't need to hire anybody and waste 6 or 8 hours of their time. Also, they lose that job opportunity. But it's kind of cool. I've used it to download all of the recorded videos on my channel and get summaries of them. It's pretty good. That'll help me put out my podcast someday, which I need to remember to do. Once, you know, once AI is kind of out there with integrations, and that's how I got my YouTube videos all downloaded an integration called from Glasp, which is pretty cool. That loops into Anthropic's Claude AI, which is very nice. Can put parts together for you, great. Like you just, I, it's a Chrome plugin. I click on a YouTube video, and it gives me a transcript. It's not the Google transcript, um, and then you can just ask the transcript questions. It's real quick. There are limits on it. Like even if you buy it, they've got a 5 hour limit. But I think it gives you 5 hours of transcribed video for every 5 hours. It's not a bad deal. Um, it took me 3 days to get all my videos, all my recorded videos downloaded. This is not bad stuff. And when you can use it to accelerate or automate a workflow pattern between multiple tools, right? That's not bad. I mean, before that, I was trying to write a damn script in Python to, go to YouTube and download all my transcripts from YouTube, which are not the best. Um, and it took me forever, and I couldn't do it because they kept changing the API. Well, Glass took care of it for me, and that integration worked into the AI because it's not their AI; they're using Anthropic's AI. Um, hey, fantastic stuff, you know. And now I can do things like I've got summaries of everything. Just look up the summaries, and I think that when we engage with these things with a healthy dose of reverence for the work that was put in by many, many people, some of them unknowingly. This is where we get into the copyright and suing and all that nonsense. Um, we can leverage that to our advantage. And I have an AI or had an AI that was running locally. The local AI running tools broke mysteriously in a way that should not happen on a computer. Also, yeah, computers don't work anymore. But, I was using it, I was doing a decent job. Mistral was doing a decent job. I gotta try one of the other ones. That's gonna require a whole bunch of work. There's a lot of work that goes into these AIs. Like I said, I'm running one locally. And that's one of the problems is that for you, it's kind of cheap and easy and 2 seconds. There's years of thousands of people's man hours going into this, right? And you can't trivialize it by pretending like it's emergent. And that if you get enough of them together, you're going to have this thing called artificial general intelligence. When you don't have a definition for artificial general or intelligence, no, they really don't. Um, and you know, we're easily fooled because we see something that speaks our language, which, by the way, we showed it how to do, and we think, oh, it's like us. But it's really not, because we're not as accurate and precise or as crazy and hallucinogenic, most of us, as the AI. Um, the amount of variability in the AI is very high. There's a lot less variability in your average person, actually. Now, you wouldn't know that unless you ran very specific tests that probably only a data scientist would know to run. Fortunately, I happen to be one. Uh, but yeah, it's kind of all over the place. And the idea that, you know, it's gonna emerge or I can't. It's gonna become wise or spiritual in some way is so absurd from a technical perspective. AIs do not program themselves. Uh, there are, I think, 5 different engineering disciplines involved in getting an AI up and running. They're not doing anything themselves. They do not self-adjust their answers. That doesn't happen. Training, by definition, already has a telos built in. Uh, like in order to train, you must have a goal in mind to train towards because training requires measurement. Measurement requires a goal. Uh, Humans have to figure out what the goal is, what the measurement's going to be, how to calculate that measurement, and then what good and bad measurement means, right, of that number. Uh, and then they have to run the training process. And while they're doing that, they have to tune the hyperparameters. And while they're doing that, they have to determine which data to throw in. And while they're doing that, it's quite complicated. I assure you, there's lots of moving parts, lots. And you can participate in that by running the AIs and giving them free data and stuff like that. And I'm ambivalent to all this. I really don't care. It's fine. It's your data. Do what you want. Um, And if you don't, like, the AI will suffer for it. That's true, except the AIs can't suffer. So, will you make humanity a better place? You'll certainly make more money for the people running AI companies if you participate. That might not be a bad thing if you think Elon Musk has the answers. Um, And, like, one other thing, I mean, I just have to mention this. The idea that, like, even Elon Musk has this crazy idea, like, if we don't get there first with the AI, somebody will go in an evil direction. I have news for you. Whether you get there first or not, they can still go in an evil direction. I don't you don't know why you don't know that. It's technology. If I take my phone and use it to kill people, the fact that you took your phone first and made it love people won't stop me. You don't know why I have to say that. But people are talking like that is the case. And I'm just, every time they say it, I'm like, do you not understand how technology works? It's like saying we have to invent the car first so that it will have the right safety features. And then realizing that, yeah, there was a guy who had seatbelts in all the cars, and the Supreme Court made him take them out. He was first. It didn't work. The trick doesn't work. I don't know what else to tell you. I feel bad that you somehow fooled yourself into thinking that was a thing. I do, but also I'm kind of like, maybe you should sit down and not talk about AI or technology at all. You seem to have a little bit of a gap. I don't. If I'm the first one to design the computer, no one will use it for anything else but what I designed it for. That's the whole history of computers, right? They're designed to fire rockets. Sorry, they were designed to do. Now we use them for all kinds of things. And despite what John Vervaeke may say, they were not designed as general problem-solving machines. That it just ignores history and the progression through time of technology in general and computers in particular. I don't know where people get this stuff from sometimes. I'm sorry. I just you're in my field now. Like I'm a technologist. I know how to code. I know DevOps. I know systems, networks, the whole 9 yards, cloud, all this stuff. I don't know what you guys are being told, but holy crap, you are being led and taken for a ride. Wow. I mean, in the whole meantime, the people who know how to use AI properly are doing well. They're like leveraging AI and making money and making people's lives better and enhancing companies all over the place and improving things for the military. And, Good for them. And some of the people that have no idea what they're doing are making replica AI, and they're doing little, therapy things and girlfriends that are ruining people's lives. Didn't stop them, did you? Yeah, I mean, it's so bonkers. It's so bonkers. AI is not a god. I know why people think it is, because you don't have contrast to see. What would a proper God look like? What would a proper thing that would unite us all towards the good, the true, and the beautiful look like? Well, if you don't know that, because maybe you're busy being a philosopher, kind of the fact that you're, quote, a philosopher indicates to me, and I could be wrong about this. No, I can't. Um, that in fact, you don't have an idea of these things, which is why you're dabbling in philosophy as such and looking. Because if you already had it, you wouldn't need to look. You'd just be like content or something. It would be a beautiful life. I don't know. Um, yeah, that's a dig on philosophy in general, modern philosophy in particular, or so-called modern philosophy, if there is such a thing. Yeah, I like what Joey said early on. Will AI think we're God? And more importantly, will it ever stop believing that? That is a more likely scenario than us actually. And the thing is, like, we act things out in the world. So we're quite capable of worshiping AI, even if it isn't a god. That was what I indicated in my story in the beginning. Yeah, I don't know. It's just I feel bad. But although I can't help but laugh, it's so silly. It's if you're here, it's silly. Sup, John? Good to see you, man. I'm glad you like the topic. I couldn't keep. I just couldn't. And here's Father Eric sighing to my comment on which rituals. Yeah, depends on which parish, right? Which rituals indeed. They kind of like when you ask the question, like, or when you pose the question, like, well, we need to make sure we have the right rituals. You kind of give away the farm in that you don't know what the right rituals are, and rituals super important, and you don't know anything about it, and you haven't been participating in them, or maybe you wouldn't say something quite that ignorant. I think is the best way to put it, without to be as kind as I could possibly be. Um, yeah, Matthew derivative. Yeah, this guy was really clear. It was very funny, right? It's a room full of novices, with the exception of like two of us, three of us maybe. And he says, AI is not going to create something for you. It's only going to put pieces together that already exist. It's a very good tool for automating derivation. Very good tool for that. Father Eric, that's why I need an AI that does my dead stuff for me. Yeah, well, everybody does. That's the thing. Like I said, I used it so I didn't have to watch myself talk on all my videos and summarize them. It can do that for me because my videos that I've recorded are dead. AI laundry now. Well, that's a different problem. I saw a thing. I don't know how real it is, but it was a picture of a robot loading shelves, and there was a guy in the other frame with a goggles on, seeming to mimic the robot to show it how to load the shelves, and it said $3.50 an hour. And I don't think it's real, but yeah, that could happen where you're just basically enslaving a population for under minimum wage, like we do now with China. I'm buying things from China, and thinking that you're doing the world a good thing because you have a high minimum wage next door. You've been psyoped, you moron. Also entirely your fault. No one else's fault. West Coast refugees. So there's no need for an AI priest. You cannot have an AI priest. Father Eric. Nope. There you go. Ain't no math on a video card can do what I do. There we go, Father Eric. That is correct. And it really is just math on a video card. That's the funny thing. All these people. Look at the history of NVIDIA. Where did they come from? Oh my goodness. But they should do my laundry. I agree, Father Eric. AI should do your laundry. Unfortunately, it's only good at automating electronic tasks and not physical world tasks. Maybe it's getting better. Matthew, a flattened intimacy, mutated. Well, and a lot of our attempts at resolving the quote God problem are due to the individualist mindset, right? Where you're rejecting God on the one hand so that you can be an individual, or the concept of God. It doesn't have to be Yahweh or Jesus or whatever, right? It can be any of them, uh, right? You're rejecting that on the one hand, but then you want and need intimacy, so you're right back in the conundrum. Like, oh no, I need intimacy with something bigger than myself. Okay, I agree. Intimacy crisis confirmed. And West Coast refugee, will it know how to know to hang your genes? I don't know. I hope so. Father Eric thinks analog chips for the win. There are some caveats on analog chips, my friend, but they are lower power, but not by that much. Not at that scale either. That's the other problem. John just pulled over, driving in the middle of nowhere, and I doubt my reception will be good enough to join. I'll probably just enjoy from the audience. I may pop in if possible. Thanks. All right, John. Well, we'll see. Transhumanists and antinatalists are pretty much the same people. Yes, they are. I think transhumanism and antinatalism are basically born of the same seed. And that seed can only have a sour fruit, if you want to put it in those terms. And I think people get confused about that, right? They especially with AI, they see a potential, right? They can imagine that AIs can get together. Okay, you're already wrong, but please continue. And then once they get together, because they have divided things into parts, they think those parts can just make a whole magically. Um, but no, they can't. No matter how much electricity you put into them, by the way, just the irony is just, it's so funny that really, you none of y'all noticed? Really? You're well read in history and philosophy and psychology and science, and you you didn't get the it's really just Frankenstein, like the actual book by Mary Shelley, Frankenstein? You didn't see that, huh? Really? Is that where we are? Stupid smart people? Ixnan, I think people get their ideas about AI from Star Trek. I think they get their ideas about AI from their memory, and their hopes and their lack of a higher power. Because if they had a sense for something higher than them, they wouldn't be trying to put AI in its place because something would already be there. And again, they'd have contrast to see, oh, this is what a real higher form of existence looks like. This is what a real God is that can care, right? And if you don't have that, then AI will fit the bill. Why wouldn't it? Um, Also, you're the type of person that will decohere the cells of a frog and put them back together in a random fashion. And when they do something that you couldn't have predicted, you'll go, aha! Even though that should be perfectly obvious. Yeah, Mike 11. Sorry. He's just so silly. I'm sorry. These guys are just so silly. I just can't even. It's like, what are you talking about? Why are you like this? What happened to you as a child? Are you okay? Like, the AIs are gonna get together. It wouldn't be Star Trek. It's not. It would be the Matrix, right? That's where the AIs all got together. We gave birth to AI. Oh, we did, huh? Is that what happened? We gave birth to AI. Did we, Morpheus? Thank you. That's where they get their crazy ideas from, right? And then you see that theme in the Matrix movies where the things are all parts, and then they all get together, and then they're one big thing, and they form a face. And it's not how anything in the world works, by the way. I don't know if you've been out recently, but it turns out if you leave your house, you can observe the world and see it doesn't do that, which you can't do if you stay indoors and do math all day and try to fit things together and go, ooh, I fit things together. This is great. Thanks. Have you seen a 3-year-old with Legos? I don't know what to say at some point. Did you read Karl Marx and believe him too? Because also 3-year-olds, same quotes, honest. Oh my goodness. Anyway, I think I'm done with all of the comments. So I am up for talking more about AI or not even discussing it again because it's gonna make me laugh at this point. So if you want to join, I will post the link and you can hop on in and we can talk about whatever you want, including AI. I just yeah. Part of the problem is I'd like to have a nice long stream and explain all. I can't. It's too easy. Like the idea that AI can't do these things is a very simple concept. And look, if somebody wants to challenge me and get into the technology, I like to win. You're welcome to come on and we can get into it. So you're not gonna win, but I like to win, so okay. Let's go. Look, I haven't read every paper, but I read a lot of the seminal AI papers. And I got news for you. Not what you think. It's not what you think. Oh, here we go. Father Eric, how are you doing, sir?
Doing all right. Doing all right. It's raining. It was
Oh,
supposed to be planting, so it's not ideal, but otherwise, all systems functional. But yes, I too am eagerly awaiting the day when people stop losing their minds over math.
yeah. Well said. I probably should have opened with
It's
that.
clever
Please
math. I
stop
put it
losing
to
your
you.
mind over math.
It's very clever math. It has its uses, but it's math. It's just very clever.
Well, it's weird that somehow AI math, which is really just very sophisticated math, um, is going to do something that math can't do when they keep mapping everything back to math. I'm like, I don't. Do you guys know what contradictions are? Like, are you aware?
They're not, unfortunately. That's why we need navigating patterns.
Apparently. Oh my goodness. It's just it's so funny when Jonathan Peugeot, the symbol guy, who I love, right? I mean, tremendous respect, is by far the most knowledgeable and has the best understanding of AI of anybody on the panel. And I'm just like, this is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And you got to watch the tricks. Like Vervaeke pulled a bunch of tricks. I mean, I don't think Vervaeke did it on purpose. I think he's as enchanted as anybody ever. Right? What could care? No individual AI will care about itself, but all the AIs together will care about. I don't know because it doesn't make any sense. Themselves and each other. I don't know how that would work. You can't do the mapping, so I'm like,
I mean,
but then he switches his language from care to the word concern, and I was like, oh, he just switched in the same. Like he didn't stop talking, right? He's
mhm.
the same speech, and he didn't define care, which fair enough. Good luck. I'm not touching that either, right? I'm not gonna try to define what it means to care. What are you high? No thanks. I mean, maybe you can, Father. I'm not. That's way out of my pay grade.
Attention. Benevolent attention.
It doesn't help, but okay, it's a
I
start.
I just
But
I took the word and turned it into two words, but we still don't really know what attention is.
exactly, or benevolence. This is going to
We
be
got a
defined
better
too.
idea. I mean,
Right. Well, you're going to get into sacrifice for the other, which is where everybody goes with love and caring. But then he switches to the word concern, and you can say, look, concern, it's a faux pas, or concern and caring are the same. Okay, but then it's not itself and others, it's the transcendentals. And I'm like, oh, now you've created like 6 problems. Good job. Like now there's a bunch of problems. What do you mean concern for the true, the good, and the beautiful? Please explain it to me like I'm 5, because I don't think you can.
yeah, I don't know how they're going to make that a function of a matrix multiplication.
Right, exactly. Well, to be fair, it's a bunch of matrix multiplications.
Okay.
That makes it better, I guess. I don't know. more dot products within the constrained values that you've already constrained so that you can calculate dot products.
I mean,
I don't know. Like, how are you coming up with this? Seriously, do you know math?
well,
I don't. I'm a math idiot, and even I know that's not going to work.
it's a function of materialism.
Yeah.
That's the only way to do it, because if all of this right here is reducible to mathematics, then obviously we just need to get our math good enough so that we can make one of these out of NVIDIA graphics cards.
Yes, right. Pretty much. Yeah. No, that's exactly what's going on. It's just so funny to me. I'm like, do you guys do you hear yourself when you talk? Do you possess this alleged critical thinking faculty? Because I got questions. I got real questions. As somebody who I have the book. I don't know how old it is. Building AIs from scratch in C++. I did that. It's wonderful fun. I also have collective intelligence in Python, where you make recommender engines and all. None of that's AI, by the way. All the best stuff that AI does is actually better done without AI. Except for LLMs. LLMs are amazing. LLMs cannot spell check better than a statistical system. That's worth knowing. So yeah, it's sort of amazing. I did when it comes to Ixnaan. Is AI God? No, simple as. Exactly. How do I make a live stream out of a "no, you idiot" kind of a statement, which I have to make because this is my area. This is what I do. This isn't the only thing I do, but I've been doing AI for a long time, and all the machine learning stuff that comes before it. It's actually way more important, and there's a lot more of it than the AI. West Coast refugee. Every time I think Peugeot is in over his head, in some of these talks, he surprises me and opens up things for me in my simple mind. I know. Isn't it amazing what symbolism can do for you? It's and open up is the right term. Yeah, that's what symbolism does. It opens up and it binds, and it allows for cooperation. And if you don't have symbolism, if you've become an iconoclast in some sense, then you are not going to be able to cooperate in the same way that people that have symbolism can. You're going to reduce cooperation down to procedures.
I mean, I think so. Let me try and do a little bit of mind reading here, right? And Dr. Vervaeke himself will tell you that the main focus of his research is trying to figure out relevance realization.
Right.
That is his big goal. And then when you sit there and think about, just kind of the basic problem of attention, it's dang, that's actually really interesting. How does that work? And we can get some clues about it, but the secret sauce is always going to be evading us, I think, because insight is instantaneous.
Right, and
you can't break an insight down into any of its constituent parts.
Right,
it always comes to us as a whole, which is why I think Aquinas did actually say that it's an angelic way of knowing.
Oh, cool.
Then we've got immortal, immaterial souls, and so every once in a while we can manage this angelic knowing, where it doesn't go by steps, go by procedure, basically. It's not made out of parts. It just comes to us in a flash of insight. And so the obsession with AI, at least for some folks, would end up being how they can justify their materialist presuppositions, because if I can make the NVIDIA chip do that, that means I'm no different than the NVIDIA chip, which for them appears to be a victory.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. No, that's well said. And this is what it just shocks me. I'm like, they're clearly not understanding the implications of what they're saying. Even if you afford them everything, it's what is wrong with you? Like I said, I mean, this talk about we have to get there first. I'm like, what planet are you on exactly, where you think getting to the something first is going to somehow prevent the bad people from doing the bad thing? In which historical epoch did that ever work?
I mean, the people who are, as far as I can tell, most poised to exploit it, AI technologies, are probably just the advertisers again, because they seem to take over everything.
Yeah. Well, and advertising is a subtype of communication, right? And a communication is one way in which we get a sense of intimacy. And so you could look at the rise of advertising as concurrent with the loss of intimacy in the culture. And
So it's
that would
like
work.
you become an Apple person. And now that you're an Apple person, you're a part of this global communion of Apple
Right.
people.
Right. Right.
It also explains why people are, you listen to the nerds on YouTube, right? Maybe I listen to them a little too much. It's entirely possible. Um, they'll be talking about, like, oh yeah, the Legend of Zelda speedrunning community,
Yeah.
and it's like they are united around something, but what kind of community, what kind of body are you going to be able to build around playing video games as quickly as you can manage?
Right. Right. Bad tell us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, that's an interesting way to frame it. Yeah. I mean, it's funny, right? Because Apple in the very beginning, when Jobs took over and, got it popular again, people were like, oh, this is a cult. It's like, well, yeah, absolutely. And
Great way to make money.
at the same time, and I remember this well, there was a person named Guy Kawasaki, I think, who was the Apple evangelist. Like that was his job.
Oh, we got to tell people the good news about Apple's victory over
Just Apple,
what
just the good news
exactly?
about Apple and what you could do with it. I mean, he
Well,
literally was called the evangelist.
so if Evangelion had a very specific meaning in ancient Greece. That was the news that was brought in of a victory out somewhere on the fringes of the empire. So, we're going to tell you this good news about the king who's won a victory there, which is why it was kind of subversive for the church to call the memoirs of the apostles the Gospels, the good news, the Evangelion, because somebody else has gone out and won a victory, and it wasn't Caesar. So I'm drawing a connection there.
Yeah.
I'm sure the folks at Apple weren't thinking that.
No, probably not.
But it's like, what exactly are they like? Are they winning the battle against Windows?
No, I mean, they wasn't even a concern.
Yeah.
I mean, the big enemy back in the day when Steve Jobs did the first big advertising type commercial was IBM was the
Right.
big evil, not Microsoft. I mean, they
Yeah,
would. I mean, Apple pretty much wouldn't exist without Microsoft. Yeah, that rivalry is much ginned up. Joey, good to see you, Joey. I tune in the first words I hear. This is a cult. You have my attention. Yeah. Well, I mean, Apple is very much a cult. It still is. I mean, the funny part was years ago, Apple was just getting to be a bigger and bigger company. And people were saying, I think it was the fifth biggest company on the market, on the stock market. So fifth biggest company in terms of valuation. That's a slippery slope. I don't want to get into finance. But I mean, I will if I have to, but it was fifth biggest company by valuation. The top two were oil companies. Duh. And they were going, the oil companies are greedy. And I was like, oil companies make between 5 and 7% profit. And that thing that you use to get to Facebook and post about oil companies being greedy, you paid a 30% upcharge to Apple because they don't sell a product they don't make a 30% margin on. Who's greedy? The guy charging 5% for their time or the guy charging 30% for their time? I don't know. Let me do some math. Oh, wait, I do know. And just the irony back then, and nobody gets it. Like, oil companies aren't greedy at all. Gasoline is the cheapest or second cheapest liquid in the United States by the gallon. They're not greedy. Are you nuts? They don't have to be. They sell at volume. It's beautiful. Apple does not sell at volume, or until very recently. And they were making 30% on any product you bought from Apple. They made at least 30%. That was their goal. That's the, yeah. And that gets totally backwards, right? We're going to break the IBM, control over you. Who has control over you now? The iPhone. Like, what are you talking about? You didn't break anything. You just supplanted them and lied to everybody that you were just as bad. That's all that happened there. I got news for you. Slavery confirmed. You just swapped out masters. Good job.
So what about the Linux users? Who's their master?
Yeah, you want libertarian rebels. Linux. So stupid. The dumbest group of techies ever is the Linux community. Seriously. I was there in the early days, pre 1.0 Linux kernel. Believe me, they were that dumb from day one. They really did not understand what they were doing or what the impact would be, or so many projects to, unify the desktop and make it easy to use. And I'm like, guys, like, you're really good software engineers, and you wouldn't know how to make a product usable if I held a gun to your head. You just wouldn't. You just don't understand how people think about the technology they're interfacing with. You know how to make it dance and do cool shit, but like, you do not understand how people are interacting with it.
Well, maybe that's a feature and not a bug.
And to some extent, I mean, that's the thing. Well, and yeah,
like, if I wanted to have nothing but the company of other canon lawyers, I would just talk about canon law all the time.
Right.
And even then, there'd be plenty who are like, I want to get away from work sites. Come on.
Yeah. And Urand is right, but they think they are the smartest. Well, they are the smartest at computers. Unfortunately, they're not the smartest at how people use computers, or at people, or at breaking problems down, or at understanding what problems are and what things are just fun to do. Because programmers will do fun things, and that's how you get broken software pretty reliably. I mean, this is what I used to sit with the development teams and ask them, like, when you wrote this code, what did you think would happen? Right? And inevitably it was, well, I thought somebody would do this and click on that and spin around 3 times and say, Beetlejuice. And I'm like, no, they literally want a button that says easy. That's what they want. And if you can't give them that, that's fine, but don't code it. Like, just don't code it if it's too complicated. Yeah, but it can do X, Y, and Z and paint your house red or blue. You just have to enter in red or blue and paint my house over here and use these sliders to tell it how big the house is. And I'm like, yeah, stop. Just no. Linux masters equals hubris. Yes, Joey. I do have to echo what Casey said earlier, which is we love Joey, don't we, folks? Yes, we do. You, in fact, love Joey. If you don't love Joey, you can't be here. That is, I can make that rule. It's my stream. Ixnon, Linux is great if you want to do one thing and also you want to do it all yourself. Yes, which you don't. Exactly. Well said. Yeah, I love Linux. I use Linux all the time. And this is a Windows machine. All my other machines are Linux. Oh, no, that's not true. I have 2 Windows machines. I have 3 Windows machines. I have like a bunch of Linux machines. But yeah, I mean, Windows is just too handy for a bunch of stuff. Randy, that's pretty fair. Yeah, I mean, smartness is not one thing. It's not universal. In the age of gnosis, smartness is defined as knowledge, propositional knowledge, and it's one thing. And then that's the highest value. And so it's pretty easy. Who's smart? The one with the most knowledge. But that doesn't solve a problem, because the most knowledge of what? Would you like to come in here?
Every grain of sand on Cocoa Beach.
Right. Because would you like to come in here and discuss like your specific knowledge about the specific thing that I know nothing about, and then claim that you're the smartest? Well, I discuss something like computers, which I know a great deal about that you probably don't know for almost all values of you in the world, right? Because to some extent, I have a lot of knowledge of computers, and a lot of it's really esoteric and unique. Like I own a Xerox 1108. If you don't know what a Xerox 1108 is, I've just proven my point. And if you look it up, you will know I've proven my point. That's for sure.
Looking it up right now.
Beautiful machines. It's all wrapped up in the history of AI. No word of a lie. First AI machines, or at least among the first. Yeah, there were a whole line of Lisp machines. Lisp is the first AI programming language, which is a much better way to do it, by the way. Although it just turns out that they found this shortcut around doing things differently. But that's why a lot of the language translation stuff is actually done in like Prolog and stuff long before it's ever put into AI. Also, I have downloaded NASA's original neural net source code, so I have it somewhere. I've looked at it. I've read it too. Yeah, all the it's people like, oh wow, man, AI neural net. I can't. It's all free. It's all open source. It always was from the 80s. Like I don't know what to tell you. It's a lot of work to get it up and running, but like I know how to do that work. So whatever. It's a lot of work for some people. For me, it's just fun. For me, it's called Bored on a Tuesday.
Now, what is this nerd crap that I'm looking at?
What is this nerd crap? I can't even read.
Who even has time for this?
Yeah. Well, that's the problem with nerd crap. Yeah, Lisp. Yeah, Lisp is fun. I actually do not know how to program in Lisp, believe it or not. And I have a Lisp machine and everything. You also don't need to know how to program in Lisp because the machine's so sophisticated that actually all the software is already written. So you just kind of use it. Oh, there we go. Here, Casey. Oh, yeah, that is real nerd shit. There you go. Confirmation from 3 independent sources. That is heavy on the nerd. I mean, and that's the problem with you think that knowledge is your highest value, and someone like John Vervaeke, who's extraordinarily well read, has a lot of knowledge. It's just that when it comes to AI, he doesn't know anything at all, zero, and he's relying on people who are having fantasies, and he doesn't know they're having fantasies because he doesn't know enough about AI to have a bullshit detector for it. And that's how you bullshit yourself. Which is exactly what happened to him, which is ironic because he talks about this all the time, right? Awakening from the meaning crisis. Self BS is a problem, and you shouldn't fall into it. And there's all these biases. It's not all bias. I mean, yeah, there's biases, and you can't get around them, no matter what your IQ is. It doesn't affect the bias. Nobody tells anybody that. But also, you can also bullshit yourself by listening to other people without being able to vet what they say. And to some extent, you can't. Like, you're not going to know if something I tell you about computers is true. I can tell you stuff about computers that's absolutely true that you can't validate online. Now what? Or you can't validate at all, because it just turns out that almost every fact you can think of has the exact counterfact somewhere on the internet. Now what? Did we help ourselves with all this internet information? I don't think so. Somebody out there, well, and I've read it, has a perfectly rational explanation for flat Earth that's not incorrect at all. You're not going to be able to figure it out. I mean, I've talked about this before. I was watching We Never Landed on the moon landing conspiracy show one day. And a million years ago, but it was quite entertaining and interesting. And I'm watching the show, and they go, the shadows on the moon are not parallel. Shadows are always parallel. And for some reason, my brain went, yeah, that's right, even though that's not even close to correct. But I wasn't fooled, because later on they were talking about they had a camera. And if you look closely, there's no stars in the background. And I'm like, well, actually, I do know photography. And I know why there's no stars in the background, you idiot. There's a very good reason for that. And if you picked up a camera, you'd know what it was. How difficult is it to get different contrast, even on a black and white camera, different contrast white items at a distance. Ho, good luck to you. You got to do all kinds of tricks to do that. You need to adjust 3 different settings on the camera. One of them might be just leaving the aperture open forever, right? Especially to capture stars. And so, like you can find this stuff out there, and it's very coherent. And Joey refuses to believe in the moon. Joey,
What a
I'm in the
patriot.
same boat. I've done that myself. Somebody said there was a moon, and I tried to convince her that there was not. And,
I only believe in the moon because it's dogma.
Yes.
We calculate the date of Easter based on the solar and lunar calendar together. So I just have dogmatic faith that the moon, in fact, exists. So it seems, with this wealth of information that we've got just floating all around us, that the only useful currency is to have trustworthy people. Because if I wanted to know, like when all this AI stuff blew up, what was it, over a year ago? ChatGPT launched.
Yeah.
Gosh, it was like January of 2023. I was like, oh, what the heck is this and how does it work? It looks like magic. I just asked you a bunch of questions about how does this work, Mark? And then I'm like, okay, it's just a bunch of fancy math on an NVIDIA chip. That was really useful because I didn't lose my mind.
That's right. Well, you need that grounding. So another way to say what you said was, what's the in this flood of information, right? Just think of it as a flood of there's way too much information out there, and too much more getting generated by the second at this point, right? What is the thing that you need the most? Well, the only sort of currency that matters is caring, right? I need to care enough about your question to answer it. And you need to care enough about me to believe me when I tell you, no, bro, don't listen to those idiots. It's actually just a math on a video card, really. Scaled up video card, but it's actually a video card.
It's a $20,000 video card. I understand that. I'm not running anything like that anytime soon. But
they're way more.
In theory, if you had a boring enough person, they could run the math for a large language model. Yes. Like a human being on paper.
Yeah.
Like, okay, once that's established.
That's the origin of computers.
Oh yeah. That just people doing calculations by hand. Yep.
People doing calculations by hand for rockets. No, really. That's the whole thing. Like actually, right? Right. The big computers, the little, IBM got started on the cash registry business, roughly speaking, and then the accounting business, just like NCR. But they went into the accounting business for the medium to large businesses, right? Which is why it was very hard to dislodge them from the industry. And to this day, no one's done it because they just own all the big transactions at banks. You can't do them on something that isn't a main. You can't use parallel processing. It turns out you can't scale horizontally some things. So mainframes are quite useful. It turns out they run all the money systems. Sorry, except Bitcoin, but Bitcoin's all over the map. So you should have some, but I don't know. Joey A. The moon exists, but I refuse to prove it. Father Eric. Yes, that is well said. If you have boring enough person, they could run a large language model. That is probably how language already works. Yes, pretty much. Or doesn't work, as the case may be. I was listening to a clip from Sam Harris talking to, I forget who, one of these internet weirdos who invented some new morality thing that isn't morality or ethics.
Something that was disproved by the Greeks thousands of years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Something the Greeks knew about and already threw out as garbage and told everybody about. But he just didn't read that part. So good on him, I guess. But both of them are just like abusing the English language in ways that I was just like, I kept having to stop the video. And I was laughing.
Harris and Alex O'Connor, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was Alex O'Connor. It was so funny because, and it's bad, right? Because most people will not hear the the grammar mistakes they're making and the errors in language construction. Like they're actually just forming invalid sentences and slamming words together that can never possibly mean anything. And I'm just like, this is so funny. And they think they're having a serious discussion where they each understand the other one. And that's just too much. It's just too much. And just thinking about it. Oh, it was such a joyous day today. It really was. I got to laugh all day.
Gosh, if that's what brings you joy, then I'm just glad that it's not illegal.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, Sam Harris he just puts words together and pretends like he's saying something, and it's like, I don't know what
To be
tell
fair,
you,
he
dude.
does that and gets paid.
That's the problem. It's like, donate to my buy me a coffee, buy something from my store. Like, if someone's paying him, someone should pay me. I'm just saying. Oh my goodness. And yeah, Matthew Harris is an empty suit. He really is. He has some propositional knowledge, which is the highest value in the age of gnosis. So, serious convo. They think they're profound. Yeah, they do. They think they're being profound, even though they're just like inappropriately misusing things like tense in the English language. That cracked me up. I'm like, do you guys not know how to speak? Is that the problem here? Sally Joe, we have to start refusing to prove it. Yeah, well, I turn off Harris midway every time now. Midway. Dude, I went through a phase where I could listen to about 10 minutes of the guy, and then I just have to stop.
Amateurs. I just don't listen to him.
There you go. We are amateurs. Yes, grift happens. Yeah, Sam Harris is the best example of grift on the internet, for sure. I mean, he's
grifting so hard, he's grifted himself.
It really has. Sally Joe, more information has long ceased to help. Yeah, more information only seeks to confuse, right? Like, and you see this in court a lot, actually, unfortunately. If you have ever gone to court like me, you will see it far too often. People will just pile more information on. It's like, yeah, but the crime is here. Like, the bad behavior is here. The admission is here. You see it a lot in crime dramas, actually. Where what people are fighting is the emotional manipulation, and no one's paying attention to the fact that the thing happened. It's like, well, the thing happened. Why are we arguing? Sally Joe, I'm sure it's illegal somewhere. Yeah, well, one can only hope. West Coast refugee is the secular speaking in tongues. Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's sad that there's so many people that are fooled by people like banding about terms like effective altruism. It's like, that's never going to have any way to convey communication outside a very long series of discussions where you define effective, because the word effective is not definable in any reasonable, easy way. And altruism is also not definable in any easy way. Like, one man's altruism is another man's genocide. No, really. Right? And one man's efficiency is another man's genocide. No, really. We know this happened already. I'm not referring to abstracts. I'm telling you, this trick was used successfully, and it killed millions every time. Maybe no. I'm still a no on the, just slaughtering of people wholesale for some reason.
I'll take the law and order, but hold the genocide.
Yes. Can I have the law and order? Hold the genocide, please. I love it.
Oh man, that's what I look at politics right now. I'm just like, oh, please, can we avoid? Can we get some semblance of law and order back? But just hold the genocide.
There's got to be a way. I feel like we had this nailed, and then we just kind of lost it somehow. Yeah. Matthew Peralta, effective altruism is best known for $1 billion scandal, SFB. Give me a break. Yeah, but people are still holding on to it, and they're doing the, well, he was a bad actor trick. And I'm like, oh my goodness, what is wrong? Ask 10 people what 10 experts in effective altruism what it means, and you're going to get 23 different answers, and they're not going to realize it, and they're going to blissfully go along thinking that they're talking about the same thing. And it's easy because we fill in the details, right? So if I say, peace and love and empathy will save the world, A, that is correct in some sense. B, everybody heard me say something different. They heard the same words, but the images in their head about what empathy looks like or what peace looks like or what love looks like are different. And so I didn't communicate a single thought to a bunch of people. I communicated an abstraction into which everybody can project their own thing. And then it's everything in your head is always correct.
That's another problem with the
Indifferent.
word modernity and the concept of modernity is people do that kind of projection all the time.
You have to, because the word modernity cannot mean anything
besides today.
It means the here and now. It means the present. Okay, the present what? The present live stream, the present pirate outfit, the present Frankenstein drawing on the board.
The past 500 years.
Right, right, because usually people are pointing at the Protestant Reformation or the Enlightenment or whatever other kind of time period they find. Oh, it's really the turn of the 20th century, or what are you on about? And then when you ask them to explain, like, why is that the beginning point for modernity, you should hear the answers. Like, they're endless. Then they're endlessly stupid. It's just utterly shocking to me.
Modernity began with the death of Thomas Aquinas.
There we go. I like it. I'm all in.
It's all downhill after that.
What year was that?
It was in the 13th century, my friend.
A little earlier than I would have gone, but I'm okay with that.
It was just we hit the peak, and then everything was just kind of down from there, So that's obviously when modernity began. Because when I use the word modernity, I just mean everything I don't like.
Yeah, me too.
That's modernity right there.
Joey. T-Gel, I just know people are thinking about projecting thoughts onto me. Yes. Yes.
T-Gel.
I don't know what that is. West Coast refugee. I feel like I'm living in the Tower of Babel right now. Yes, you are, unfortunately. And that's what happens. Like, you get AI gods because they're going to get wise and be spiritual, and this is definitely going to happen. And it's this whole idea around progress being linear and discrete. And we know the starting point and the ending point of this progress. And so clearly AI is going to surpass us as a spiritual being because we're going backwards in spirituality. And it's just getting started. I don't know. I can't figure out what they came up with and how they got there. Joey, if the Dark Ages are bad, why are so many people trying to avoid blue lights these days? Valid question. I think the Dark Ages are pretty good, actually, but they were dark. A lot of people still going like the Dark Ages weren't dark. And I'm like, really?
Depends on what you mean by Dark Age. The Greek Dark Age, we don't have any writings from that period. So like are we defining that as a Dark Age? In which case the Dark Ages in Europe were dark. But if you just mean things went backwards, then yeah. Everything kind of fell to pieces. That's fine. Nobody disputes that.
Yeah, we lost a bunch of technology. The population collapsed because of plagues and stuff. And like, yeah, we didn't need that technology either. That's one of the things. Like, there'll be a time when we don't need AI. That's going to be pretty funny. I don't know what the time frame is on that, because like some days I wake up and I'm like, this AI thing is going to collapse like by noon today, because it's just like, what is wrong with you people?
Yeah. The Fed's got to drop the interest rates if they want to keep this AI thing alive.
Oh no, that won't work. That'll make everything worse.
Oh, it will. That's exactly what I'm saying. Keeping the AI thing alive, that'll make everything worse, because all of a sudden there'll be lots of really cheap money sloshing around the economy again. And the people, it's like No, we need to have an
No.
AI priest to answer Catholics for Catholic answers.
Oh,
And it's
dude.
like, guys, you've answered all the questions already. I've seen your archive. It's impressive. It's a beautiful, big, beautiful archive. It has all of the best answers in it. Why did you need to? Yeah. AI priest. He's not a priest anymore, no. Now he's just a professor, I guess. And that's actually a lot better.
That's
It's
a lot
actually a
better.
massive improvement.
That's a lot better. Yeah, when I saw that, I'm like, what is this Catholic Answers clown doing? Who would do such a thing? They need help, Father Eric. They need a lot of help, those guys.
I think they've run into a problem with their business model where they've answered all of the questions already. Like, really. It's like they've gone out and they've searched for objections to Catholicism, and they've gone and they've answered all of them. And they're pretty good answers. Like, I'll still look a thing up every time to time. And so now where do they go with their business, right? Because, Carl Keating still wants to feed his family, the weirdo, and has employees and still wants them to be able to feed their families. So, yeah.
I don't know. West Coast refugee. Is technology a plague? Oh, it can be. It's a flood, that's for sure. Bingo. Yeah. Well, look, technology is required, but also, like anything else, if you don't pay attention to it, you'll get crazy people who've studied too much psychology, philosophy, history, and neuroscience or cognitive science to comment on AI and misunderstand everything. And yeah, Sally Joe, technology Black Death is 3-factor identification. We need 3-factor auth instead of 2-factor auth. That is true, Sally. It's coming to a head. Don't worry.
So you had talked about Frankenstein's monster,
Yeah,
and the whole novel right there. What are the, I think, underappreciated aspects of that novel that I read about in an article? Just in case you thought I was daring an original, was kind of this theme of paternal abandonment in it.
right.
Dr. Frankenstein creates this life, but refuses to take the responsibility for it. And so it has to run off on its own. And, well, if you haven't actually read the novel, read the novel. It's actually quite good. It's really not that long. It's a little over dramatic in points, but, that was just the 19th century and kind of how they rolled back then. So you just kind of put up with it, yeah, it's like it's spinning this whole thing up and then abandoning it.
Yeah,
It's
they
got to
are.
be something like, I don't know. After you abandon it, you no longer shepherd it. It goes out and just causes chaos out there. It's sort of like something about technology getting loose, and then the bad actors get their hands on it. I think the instinct to, we want to be the first in there with the AI to make sure that bad things don't happen and good things do happen. I think that's a solid enough instinct. I just don't think it's possible.
Well, right. I mean, it's never happened in the history of technology. Right, because technology spreads out. Like techne spreads out. It is the thing that spreads out. Right?
Because it's portable. You can teach it to
all
people.
Technology is a democratization or a decentralization of a process. That's what it is, right? And so we can do something relatively complicated. We can do the TV. All right. So once somebody figures out how to do moving pictures, right? Which is a wheel with a bunch of images, each one advanced, right?
Mechanical TVs, yeah.
Right. And spin it at the right speed, and you have a moving image, right? Then that's a technology, right? That's techne. And then somebody else figures out, oh, well, we can simulate that with light, right? And shutters.
Electron gun.
No.
We haven't
Shutters.
gotten there yet. Okay.
shutters,
Yeah.
right? Now you don't need to spin the thing, right?
So it can
And
get
then
bigger.
it's like, oh, I see. We can put little images, right? That pictures, because you can just take lots of pictures very quickly and string them together and advance them mechanically. Like old mechanical projectors, fascinating sets of technology.
Especially because they actually have to stop the frame when they open the shutter, because
That's right.
otherwise it's really blurry.
They
That blew my
stop the
mind when I
frame.
learned it.
Right. It's not a continuous motion. It's
Yeah.
linear and discrete.
Yeah.
That's what I mean in my model, right? That's what linear and discrete means.
And the way
And
they did the sound was just,
oh,
they
the
literally
sound,
had a little light. Yeah.
mind-boggling. They have a separate light for the sound. Yeah. Yep. And that's why the synchronization is there. And that's the thing. Synchronization of sound only becomes an issue after you make it a separate track. Because now you need true timing signals and you need to figure out what the delta is between them. But then they figure out at some point how to do this with an electron beam, right? The same sort of a thing where you're basically just drawing the picture really fast. And like once you put out a TV, you can't control what people watch, right? You're no longer mothering the technology as you could when you built the first prototype in the lab. And I think that's what they're confusing it with. They're saying, oh, if I build the first prototype AI that's smart or has AGI or whatever nonsense they've come up with and fooled themselves into believing is true, then I will have done it and nothing else will fill that space, even though technology is the thing that doesn't have that property. It's the one thing that's the one property it doesn't have. That technology is non-exclusion. By definition, all techne is taking a custom thing and making it available to anyone or large numbers of people, maybe not anyone, right? That's what technology is. That's how it is defined. And so the idea that you'll get there first or you'll do it and then no one else can do it is antithetical to the idea of technology itself. So it's just like I said, like I just have to laugh. I'm like, what is wrong with you? At some point, you have to wonder what happened. Like, obviously, there was a trauma involved, and the idea of so-called critical thinking or rational thought is gone from your head.
I mean,
at least on this topic. I don't know.
I've spoken at this at length in other forums of, being in high school and early on in seminary, functionally a materialist, even though I didn't profess that. And even though when I looked at the conclusions of flattened materialism, finding that horrifying and wanting to go in the other direction, but finding it difficult, right? It's like, it's not like we can just, pop open command prompt and say, drop table distribute materialism and just give ourselves new starting presuppositions. We're a lot more complicated than that. It takes a very long time to be healed of these things. So, like we can sit here and laugh and we can definitely, point out errors where we see them and maybe where those errors lead to and their absurd and oftentimes horrifying conclusions. But we also, we should have a little bit of pity for people caught in such errors because it doesn't do them or anybody around them any good.
Nah.
Okay, well, how about this? You just bring the truth, Mark, and I'll bring the compassion, and then between the two of us, we'll have a complete person.
There we go. That sounds good. Parsons, isn't AI just feeding us back our own egos? Yeah, to some extent. I mean, AI doesn't have. It may have data that you don't have, or information that you don't have, or knowledge that you don't have, but most of what you see in AI is an affectation of your own interpretation and has nothing to do with what the AI knows. Joey A. Corporate AI is SEO once removed. Yeah, search engine optimization once removed. I agree. And that's the problem. Frankenstein is an allegory for public schools. I didn't see that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't going to let that go by. That's why we keep Joey around. He's got these little cracks that come in.
Joey's the best. I've learned a lot from Joey. He's been super useful. Yeah, I mean, what do you mean compassionate conservatives? Conservatives are compassionate. It's the Democrats that don't have any compassion. You actually know that because they keep telling everybody else to do it. That's a good hint. Psychological projection explains 90% of all psychology. Somebody says something like, yeah, there's a wonderful quote from Blake Seven. Just basically, the essence of this quote is, I don't know why it should be necessary to prove that you care, right? Because if you care for somebody or about something, it's kind of obvious.
It's actually dangerous knowledge to give away, frankly.
Right. Well, true.
Because knowing what somebody else cares about is a pathway to intimacy, and you don't want to be intimate with everybody. Tell
somebody you care, like, then I got questions. I'm a little suspicious. Let me put it that way. Yeah, it's it's just one of those things. It's like, why are you telling other people to do stuff? That's my first thing. And how do you know what they are and are not doing? Right? Just because you think someone's not being compassionate doesn't mean they're not being compassionate. It might just mean you're stupid. Maybe you don't know what compassion is. Joey. Eric makes a good point. AI will advance a lot once engineers figure out how to make AI unlearn things more efficient, more difficult. Yeah. Almost all intelligent progress starts as unique mistakes. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It's weird. The thing is, AI does not learn from itself. That doesn't, I mean, it's called training for a reason. It's called fine tuning for a reason. The AI doesn't fine tune or train itself, and it can't. Now, you can use an AI to train an AI, sure, but that's because you're using an electronic automator to automate an electronic thing. Okay, yeah, you can do that. Also, you don't need
building machines. My word.
Right. Well, it's the whole thing about 3D printing, right? They're like, a 3D printer can print a 3D printer, and I'm like, yeah, absolutely cannot happen. And then it turns out, like, minimally you need one steel rod, minimally, but that's insufficient because then you've got to print PLA gears or whatever kind of plastic gears, and they wear out real fast. But before they wear out, they get imprecise. And of course, because it's plastic and it's 3D printed, you can't calculate how many running hours before it loses enough precision that it's no longer a good 3D printer. In other words, the entropy wins, the degradation is there, and it's incalculable. Great. Can 3D printers print themselves? No. and
unless we got a 3D printer that can melt steel beams.
They do. Well, actually, they use sintering, so they take in steel filings basically and burn them together, roughly speaking, very crudely. But yeah, you can do that with some 3D printers. Metal 3D printers are cool. There's different technologies, but
even then, I think it would be way more efficient. A, not to 3D print 3D printers, but B, have like one that does all the plastic parts, and then you've got your hyper special 3D printer for the steel parts, and then just having somebody put those parts together.
Right, and that's the problem, is that's what we do now in modern manufacturing. That's been the way of modern manufacturing for hundreds of years at this point, and people don't understand. I mean, that's the second industrial revolution.
Yeah, I still think somebody was talking about Star Trek. I still think that's because it's like, tea, Earl Grey, hot, and it just gives you hot Earl Grey tea in a mug. Because we could just manipulate matter and energy at will. And if you're not sitting there as an industrial engineer figuring out how difficult it is to actually make things quickly and efficiently, then you think, well, yeah, factories are just like a replicator that you go up and say tea, Earl Grey, hot, and it just pops it right out there for you. And obviously the AIs are going to be just like the holodeck, where you just say, 3 sentences and it produces an entire world for you.
Yeah. Well,
Because you're not
Minecraft does that.
encountering how difficult it is to do things.
Yeah, but Minecraft does that.
No.
Yeah, it's got a map generator. It automatically generates a map based on your criteria.
Okay.
Now, I know
Okay,
how it's formulaic. It's a very old formula. That's the funny part. I was like, Minecraft is cool. And I'm like, yeah, so were multi-user dungeons that have the same tech. They were text-based, but like it's literally the same. Or
Minecraft
Telengard
can
is a great
only produce Minecraft maps.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But the holodeck on Star Trek Next Gen was basically magical. It could produce anything.
Yeah. Well,
and I think I'm talking about running people's imaginations here, Mark. Is that they think, oh, hey, we came up with all of these Star Trek technologies, right? Warp drive, replicator, holodeck, all of that. And so since people were able to come up with these technologies, someday we'll have them.
Right.
And wouldn't it be nice to just have free energy for everybody and like nobody actually has to work and we can all just, play around with, virtual counselor Troy on the holodeck?
Yeah.
So it's just people's imaginations are corrupted. They don't know how difficult it is to actually do things.
Well, they don't know the difference between their imagination and reality. Right? Because again, everything works in my head. Everything in my head works perfectly. It's amazing. You should come visit. It's awesome.
I've won some really awesome arguments in my head, and it only took like 30 seconds.
I know. That's the other thing. You can do so much so quickly in your head. It's amazing. It's like, I solved the world. It took like 5 minutes. Fantastic. But people don't know where they end and other things begin, like their imagination, the real world, other people. Right? And they don't know, like, it's really weird to watch the so-called modern, sort of philosophers or whatever, sort of ponder things like hyper objects. I'm like, you mean spirit? And, there's got to be some word for when people do things not as single individuals. It's like, oh, everything, always, forever. Because there's no such thing as an individual. There never was, there never will be, there never will have been. I don't know what to say. Like, I don't. That's like, I think that's what Peugeot's sort of hiding, because when he sheepishly says, well, yeah, the medievals didn't think of it this way. I think he's saying, like, the medievals weren't stupid and they didn't believe in individuals because that would be dumb, and they weren't stupid. We're stupid, not them. Yeah. And it's funny too, right? Because you say Star Trek, and I think classic Star Trek, because classic Star Trek was awesome, and actually never made any of those mistakes. But Next Gen did. Next Gen is the one that went totally off the rails with all this. And it's funny too, because like the free energy problem or the cheap energy problem, however you want to frame it, like that's Atlas Shrugged. Like that's in Atlas Shrugged for real. Like that's the thing that allows them to leave the tyrannical society, is the invention of a cheap energy source. And I want to cover this. West Coast Refugee, make a scenario that we don't need God. That's the simulation we're living in right now. Yeah. Sally Joe, the holodeck was out of control. It really was. Joey, once we have infinite energy, we can finally have our war about which groups of people have more unlimited energy than others. Exactly. You're not solving a problem. John, being trapped on a holodeck is one of my worst fears. Yeah, John. Well, you have quite the imagination, my friend, and experience. West Coast Refugee, what does the holodeck represent? It represents the unrestrained imagination. That's all. It's not hard. Sally Joe, the Vulcan have not shown up on time, and San Francisco has suffered the most.
San Francisco has suffered the most. Say a prayer for San Francisco.
I agree. Cheap energy? Yeah, John. Not the same as free energy. Yeah, because there's no such thing as free.
Sorry. Am I talking about Star Trek? But like, if we had antimatter drives, it may as well just be free because that's a lot of energy. Holy mackerel.
Oh, no. No, it's worse than that. We have antimatter drives. The problem is it's not efficient to get the energy out. Like, this is the problem of fusion.
Yeah. No, we can have as much fusion power as we want. It only lasts for a second.
No, it's worse. It's way worse. Fusion's been around since the 40s. Unbeknownst to me, even. I was like, what? The 40s?
Oh,
and
sure.
They were like,
we can sustain a fusion reaction, but we have to put more energy in than we get out.
Right? Yeah. Because it's not efficient, right? That's the problem. It's you can generate that energy. That's really easy. But most energy generation is energy transformation, not generation. It comes from somewhere, right? Yeah, that's the funny. And John, that's not what the free energy principle is. Nothing to do with each other. Yeah, well, the free energy principle is a bunch of garbage.
You don't come to me for physics, all right?
Made up by Friston, who. And the worst part is a lot of what he's saying isn't wrong. It's just that the core stuff is completely bonkers, and he doesn't. It's like Rene Girard is the same thing. It's like, damn, you get that stupid principle, and it's great, and how you got there is so bonkers and wrong. I feel like you just need to leave the house once, ever. I don't know. Sally Joe, because where Starfleet Command was, yeah, well, Starfleet Command corrupted the world. Just saying, could be symbolic. Yeah, I don't know. John, made up by Jordan Peterson. He came up with it first. I don't know about that. Oh, look, Joey. I invented a perpetual inertia machine to solve our too much energy problem. Excellent idea, Joey. I did too. It's called the North American Standard Diet.
Perpetual. We're going to spray Roundup on the wheat. You guys will love it.
It creates perpetual fat people. It's fantastic. Best diet ever. Oh, goodness. I mean, I don't know why people who talk about the problem actually just stray into it, right? Like, stay in your lane. If you're not an AI person, don't talk about AI. It's not that hard. Like, I don't understand. I do it all the time. Like, just don't talk about things I have no idea. Why would I speak up? Why would I, pontificate about this stuff? It's bonkers.
Oh boy, Joey's produced it's an infinite inertia machine, and so we got to put it up against our perpetual motion machine and see which wins.
Which will win?
Yeah.
And this is the lie of paradox. We live in a paradox. You can't live in a paradox. A paradox and a contradiction are definitionally things you can't live within or with. That's what they are by definition. Therefore, if you see a paradox or a contradiction, that is the limit of a frame that you have been given, and you can adopt a better frame. That is Meno's paradox in a nutshell. Right? All the ancient Greek paradoxes were just to show you the limits of your thinking, right? And then you could move past that once you hit that limit. You don't have to live with it and try to transcend it, which is what like the Hegelians would like you to think. Hegel would kill them all, by the way. I'm fairly sure, like with his bare hands. He wouldn't like any of those people for sure. He was a theologian, a poor theologian, granted, but a theologian nonetheless. Nobody wanted anything to. The only thing worse than being a philosopher in Hegel's day was being an actor. Like, that's it. It's the two lowest forms of life back then. I hate to break it to you. So he would not have been wanted to be called philosopher.
Sounds like an ideal we need to reclaim.
Yes. Yeah, it really is. I mean, again, we have all these people. Well, I'm a philosopher, so I can talk about any subject. Really? The philosophy of science. There's no such thing. You're just putting words together that don't belong together and pretending there's a there. Like, I don't know why. Sally is asking an important and interesting question. Sally Joe would like to know, what does Hermes say about AI?
Hey, if we're talking to Hermes, I'm out. I've got a rule against that.
Some
It's called the
people
don't talk to Hermes rule.
are writing letters to Hermes, and for some reason, they would admit this publicly, and for some reason, other people would not, like, scream in horror and try to get them help against their will, which is the appropriate response, by the way, in case you were wondering. If you're writing letters to Hermes, people don't love you unless they're trying to get you committed. Sorry.
There goes Mark again, thinking that mental health professionals can actually do something.
Oh, that's true. Well, they should try to get you help. I don't know what kind of help they need to get you or how, but they should be trying to
Exorcist,
get help.
baby. I mean, I'm not actually an exorcist, but
Yeah, maybe you need an exorcist. Um,
and unfortunately, Mark, I've got like 2 confirmations tomorrow, so
uh-oh.
I need to rest.
Go rest. Go rest. I shall. Thank you for joining. That was very helpful.
I mean, but
I
since
shall.
this AI subject is so simple, we can cover it in like 3 hours, no problem.
I know. No, rest well, my friend. Enjoy your confirmation. We need to do that video that you wanted to do. Although
Yes, yes.
Adam's going to be flying, so we'll have to wait till he's back in Ireland now and
All right.
well rested, because
It'll be quite the video. Y'all stay tuned.
jet lag. I can't wait.
Peace.
See you,
God bless
sir.
you all.
Ixnon, let's see. Hegel wouldn't want to be called a philosopher, but he probably deserves it. Well, he wasn't a very good theologian, so fair. Joey, the philosophy department is the infinite immersion machine I invented. You have foiled my ruse. Oh wow, Joey, that's quite good. West Coast refugee Sally, I thought you were asking what would I say about AI. Oh wait, John. John says thank you for joining. West Coast refugee, no opinion, by the way. Yeah, well, I it's weird. People are weird. I don't understand this AI stuff. It's much ado about nothing. I mean, how many crazy people does it take to create a cult around AI? I I don't know. Not many. But we have too many trying, and man, I just it just boggles my mind. Like, I've done so much work with AI, and I'm like, what are these guys talking about? Can I get a reference to a white paper, please? Can I get an experimental result or preliminary? I'll take ArcViz. Like, I'm not picky. I'll take I'll take a definition of the terms you're using. That would be great. And then just they don't have it. They don't have it, right? That's spirituality. Okay, what does that mean? And John, by the way, if you think the statement about anxiety is unrelated to the free energy principle, you really don't understand it. Look, yeah, anxiety is definitely too much energy in your system, but I'm not going to get into it. I should do a course on how to mitigate your anxiety. I actually know how. I've got some of that written. Should probably just do a course, sell it for $1 million a course, because anxious people will buy anything. That's how I figure it. What do you think? Leave me a note in the comments. How much is a course on reducing your anxiety worth to you? Because yeah, it's easy to reduce anxiety. Actually, it takes discipline though, like everything else. This is the problem. And a lot of this AI stuff, right? Is I don't want to be spiritually disciplined, so I'm hoping the AI will do it for me. Hey, AI can do a lot of things for you. Probably not that. So, I mean, you can see the confusion, right? AI does automate things and make your life easier for certain things. Why not for spirituality? I don't want to have to work out God. Maybe AI can just figure that out for me. And since it's figuring out God, unconsciously at least, it is God. For all intents and purposes, the thing that can figure out God is God. So why not? It's an easy confusion at that level. It's just like, what? Why? Why are we living in this particular timeline that has this particular problem? And I don't know, John. Yes, people in chaos. Good point. Cling to the first firm thing that comes to them. Indeed, they do. And you're right. That describes a lot of it. You know, when people are not well grounded, they grab on to whatever they find. The first thing that comes along, they just grab that puppy and they roll with it because they don't have a lot of choice. Right? They're all over the place. They're untethered, and that's sad. It's really kind of sad. And yeah, Sally Joe, does the anxiety course come with pudding? No, there is no pudding in the anxiety course. I suppose we could ship out little pudding packets with it, but that would really jack up the price because I'd have to get pudding and ship it. Could make a digital course, little videos, little workbook. Here's how to deal with your anxiety and bring it down. And also, anxiety is usually caused by not being well grounded. Um, Easy to fix though. And let me know in the comments what you think. I could do that. $5 million a course. Be good. Be good. I think it would work. And then you wouldn't have anxiety about AI because that's what is what where do you get this AI is going to do this? It's anxiety. It's anxiety around, and that's the problem, right? It's already the problem. Oh, AI can code. Kind of. Not really, not usefully. Um, it can do things that are useful, but it can't write useful code. Those are different things. Um, when you when you realize that AI is doing things you didn't expect it should be able to do because you're projected everything into the future rather than waiting to see what will happen, you end up with this. And we we already know that that's a problem, right? The automatic driving cars, that's over 10 years old. And the guy who championed that has already changed his mind and said, we'll never be able to do it. You cannot make a car drive itself. He's already said that. Why? We thought we'd have this solved in a year. That was like 10 or 11 years ago. That's a subset of AI is driving. Subset. I don't know. I don't know. John hopes the course comes with pudding. West Coast refugee, but lots of pudding. Oh, that's not pudding. That's pudding. Ixnon, pudding would be a stretch goal for a crowdfund. Crowdfunding would be interesting. Do we get an AI monocular? Yes. You can have an AI monocle like I have. It will whisper sweet things into your ear. That's what it will do. How come these things are like completely out of control today? Gonna have to like repair this thing. Castle Adams, spoilers, the cutie anxiety is being a pirate. Saved you all $5 million. Yes. Sally Joe, only if you pass the course. Right. Joey, we still haven't developed people that can effectively drive cars. They crash all the time. Well, there you go. Maybe a little mimetic desire. It's strange to me that people didn't notice that the self-driving car thing is not happening. Except like the guy who championed it in the beginning. Made millions of dollars and is now out of the business. Makes money on the circuit talking about how and why self-driving cars didn't work. It's not like AI is not already old enough from a technology perspective that we can see where it goes horribly right and horribly wrong. Technology cycle is 3 years. So if you've had 10 years, you've had 3 times the amount of time you needed and it didn't work. That's a hint. That's a hint. Sometimes things don't work and you can't do them sometimes. And so you need to learn that lesson and stop putting resources to things that won't work. It's, it's a key. It's a key. It's a deep, deep, deep key. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't understand why people don't get the picture of failure. When you have failed, maybe that means it can't be done. And maybe not when you fail once, right? But like after 10 years of failure, maybe you should cue in that, I don't know. It it could be that the reason why it doesn't work is because it can't work. Could be. And especially when you have a bunch of smart people on it, right? And they can't get it done. Maybe that's because it can't be done. And we don't have that stopping point. We don't have that boundary. We don't have that, oh, wait, some things aren't possible. I don't know what they are, maybe, but I know there's some of them. And so maybe the reason why you can't do a thing is because it's not possible within the constraints of the universe. It really is about constraint. And that is the problem of AI in general, right? Like you make it and you think you know exactly what it's going to be used for and how it's going to be used and who it's going to replace in society. And the next thing you know, you're worried that it's going to replace programming. And so all the people that created it are like, oh, I created my own demise. And to some extent, maybe you did. And I don't know what to tell you about that. You were hubristic. Joey, the main advantage of human drivers over AI drivers is the liability distributed to the individual, right? Any AI developer would be sued into bankruptcy over centralized failure. That is, yeah, John. Yes, yes. West Coast refugee. I was told if I can think it, I could do it. I believe that. A lot of people were sold a lie. They were told they could do anything. That isn't even remotely true and never was and never will be. Um, Most of the things that you put your mind to, you can get better at, but that's not the same as being able to do anything. And we've definitely at some point lied to people about that. And we've been suffering the consequences of that ever since. Because what ends up happening is if that's true, you go to that place where that's true. Like you go to however that works. It's true in your imagination. Again, every thought I've ever had it's beautiful and works perfectly. In my imagination, everything works perfectly, flawlessly, and fast. No energy required. You don't even need fusion energy. All the energy is free. And unfortunately, that doesn't translate. You guys still have not greeted my talking purple unicorn appropriately, and the talking purple unicorn feels offended, quite frankly, and I don't know why. I talked to my talking purple unicorn, and I don't know why you don't. No idea. This is the problem with the confusion of the inside and the outside and boundaries. Like when you don't know where your imagination begins and ends, and then you long for something outside of you for the beginning of your imagination, right? The beginning of insight. Where is that? Well, it's not in you. Well, if it's not in me, where is it in and how did it get conveyed to me? Those are good questions. The answer is not AI. That is for sure. And the answer is not if you think it, you can do it. That is for sure. Right? And then the problem is, again, you also can't do anything without thinking it first to some extent. I mean, emergence happens randomly, but doing deliberate things in the world takes deliberate thought in the world. Sorry, it just does. And yeah, we're just massively confused about that. So, no grounding, no wonder why people are confused about AI and they think it's a god and think it's going to take over all the jobs. And I get it. I get it. But it does make me laugh. Like it's just too much. Just even playing with it, you're like, "Oh, what a stupid mistake that was, AI." So, all right, look, Father Eric is gone because he's a wimp and has to sleep. the problem with weak humans. Sleep is for the weak. So I'm gonna close this down, and then I'm gonna laugh for the next 20 minutes about it because it's still, yeah, it's still, it just cracks me up. I'm sorry, it just cracks me up. Sally Joe, still no telekinesis is so disappointing. Yeah, I feel like I was promised a lot of things by sci-fi that didn't happen. Um, I could have sworn that I had next week's topic ready to go. So I'm gonna look real quick and see if I do. Next week's topic. Oh yeah, I think next week's topic is going to be special is not better, uh, which is brought to you by Sally Joe. So I think that's what I'm going to talk about. If that's what you want to hear, put something in the comments, and that will boost the signal. Or reach me on my Discord server, Marco Wisdom Discord server, and let me know. And I will probably work on that. I got a couple of other things to work on. I got a bunch of videos I need to do. It's just been a wacky week, and beginning of next week, I got to drive down to Florida and go pick up a golf cart and bring it to my house. So it's going to be a long week next week. But look, hope everybody has a great weekend. And I hope this is helpful and hopefully fun because I don't know, I had fun. I hope you all had fun. And we'll do it again next week. And hopefully we'll have a great topic. And yeah, probably special dangers of being special or something special is not better. And if you come up with anything, contact me, let me know. In the meantime, drink lots of Sampel, have some table rock tea, and probably some jelly babies because they're delicious. And then you can be a Time Lord like me, and have a lovely time.